The universe has a brutal sense of balance. It doesn't forget, it doesn't forgive, and it doesn't miscalculate. Every time they threw stones in your path, thinking you'd stumble, they carved their own downfall. That's the irony no one talks about. See, when someone sets a trap for a chosen one, they're really setting fire to their own comfort. Fate has a long memory, and it always circles back with receipts. You were never the weapon. You were the mirror. And when they looked into you, they saw everything they didn't want to face. So they attacked it. But here's the twist. Their sabotage was the soil your evolution needed. The more they tried to bury you, the deeper the roots grew. And now, the same people who mocked your silence are haunted by the echo of your name. The truth? Some people aren't scared of your failure. They're terrified of your alignment, because when you're in sync with the universe, nothing can stop you. Not lies, not gossip, not even isolation. The cosmos has always been on your side, orchestrating your rise in complete silence. And now that you're rising, they're realizing it's too late to undo the damage they did to themselves. So if you've ever felt like the enemy's obsession was personal, that's because it was. You weren't just chosen, you were calculated disruption. You are the consequence of what they refused to heal. If you feel this, like the universe is echoing through your spirit, pause, hit that like button, subscribe. Let the system know that the real ones are not just surviving, we're thriving. Before we dive deeper, take a second to feel what's already shifting inside you, because this isn't just another message. This is an activation. The version of you that used to question your worth, gone. The fear they tried to program into you, shattered. What's coming next is a reminder of just how dangerous you've become to every fake connection, every manipulator, every silent enemy watching from the shadows. So lock in. Hit that like button to amplify this energy. Subscribe so this message finds every other chosen one out there. And drop 77 in the comments to let the universe and your enemies know you're no longer running. They are. If you're truly chosen, your spirit won't let you look away now. Let's get started. Number 1. Stop letting them track you. Stay off the grid and out of their control. You didn't just grow. You evolved in a way that tore down illusions people had built their entire identity on. Your elevation wasn't gentle. It was disruptive. And that's exactly why they can't stand you. Not because you hurt them, but because your rise exposed every part of their performance. Your glow made their shadow undeniable. You didn't just trigger insecurity, you triggered collapse. And here's what they never saw coming. While they were plotting your downfall, you were becoming the reflection of everything they ran from. They didn't start a petty fight. They sparked a universal chain reaction. Because when you mess with someone aligned with purpose, you don't just lose. You get dismantled by your own energy. You become the architect of your own breakdown. And now, that's what they're facing. Not your revenge, but their own reflection. Not your anger, but the weight of truth they spent years avoiding. See, they thought this was just about you, but this was about balance, about correction, about the scales tipping after being off for too long. You were the signal, the spark, the disruption that knocked the fake off the throne they built on manipulation. And now the atmosphere itself won't let them sleep. So if you're feeling this on a cellular level, hit that like button to let the system know the real ones are alive and rising. Subscribe if you know you were never built to shrink for anyone. And drop 77 in the comments if you've already watched your haters choke on their own narratives. You don't need a team. You don't need to clap back. Your evolution is doing all the damage for you. And let's get brutally honest now. Being chosen is not for the fragile. It's not for the ones who need a crowd to move. It's for the few who walk through fire and make it look like a photo shoot. It's for those who smile without flinching while chaos circles their name. You weren't just sent into the fire, you became the flame. You weren't just betrayed. You were baited into brilliance. That's the thing they didn't calculate. You don't break in silence, you sharpen. You don't fold in rejection, you calibrate. And now they're looking at someone they can't decode, can't contain, and can't destroy. You were never meant to be digestible. You were meant to be unforgettable. You are not here to be liked. You're here to be felt. You're here to be the shift. And whether they run, watch, or whisper, they will never forget the day they realized the one they tried to silence became the storm that made everything crumble. Number 2. Quit proving yourself. Your survival alone already exposed their failure. Chosen one, they wanted your silence, but not because you had nothing to say, because they had too much to hide. You keep trying to explain your moves, justify your shifts, prove your heart. But why? Your very survival is the proof they can't erase. You walking around calm, elevated, unbothered, that alone has them spiraling. They watched you fall, and they thought that was the end. What they didn't see coming was that you'd rise, quieter, sharper, untouchable. And now every breath you take reminds them that their plan failed. Every step forward you make is a headline in the reality they tried to bury you under. Your peace is a problem. Your glow-up is a threat. You are the consequence of their betrayal, and that's a punishment they can't escape. They wanted you stuck. Now they're stuck watching, and that's why they're running, not from you, but from what your life reveals about them. You're not proving a thing. You're living the evidence. You're not begging to be seen. You are the vision. So stop offering explanations to people who can't even handle your existence. The fact that you're still rising after all that fire, that's the announcement. That's the vengeance. That's the silence that roars louder than their lies ever did. Let them sit with the fallout. You've already moved on. Number 3. Refuse their labels. You're not their victim or villain, you're the mastermind now. Chosen one, let's set the record straight. Your silence made them nervous, so they gave you a role that fit their fears. First, they painted you as weak, broken, too fragile to rise. And when that version didn't stick, they rewrote the script, cast you as the villain, said you changed, said you were cold. But here's the truth. You were never playing a part. You were designing the whole damn stage. You're not the victim they whisper about. You're not the monster they warn others about. You're the one who stopped performing for an audience that never clapped unless you were bleeding. You walked off their stage, burned the script, and started building blueprints from the ashes. You're not rebuilding for applause. You're reconstructing your life with precision, quietly, strategically, relentlessly. That's what haunts them. They can't track your next move because you're not moving for validation, you're moving for impact. And now they call it arrogance because they can't access you. They say you're distant because you're no longer bendable. But what they really feel is this: control slipping and respect rising. You're the architect now. You set the terms, you own the narrative, and while they scramble to assign labels, you're too busy building a legacy that can't be undone by gossip. Let them label, let them watch. You are no longer the subject. You are the system. Number 4. Silence the room without a word. Let your presence handle what your voice shouldn't. You don't have to lift a finger. You don't have to raise your voice. The moment you walk in, the entire energy of the room adjusts, like it got caught doing something wrong. Your presence is the pause between lies, the silence that makes fake confidence crack under its own weight. They don't flinch because you said something, they flinch because you said nothing, and it said everything. That's the power of being chosen. You don't need to prove a point when you are the point. You don't demand attention. It collapses around you like a gravitational field. You are not loud. You are loud without sound. Because your growth carries memory. It carries power. It carries data. The room feels your resilience before you even sit down. People who once laughed at your silence now avoid your eyes, not because they fear confrontation, but because they fear being exposed without a single word spoken. You became the reflection they prayed never to meet. You haunt egos. You shatter illusions just by standing still. Your evolution is what their masks were never built to survive. Let your silence do what your words could never accomplish. Cut straight to the truth. You're not just walking in peace, you're walking in consequence. You are not quiet because you're afraid. You're quiet because you already won. They wanted a reaction. What they got was a revelation. Number 5. Don't hide the pain. Build the blueprint with every scar they thought would break you. They thought the damage would be permanent, that you'd stay down, broken and begging. But here's what they never understood. Pain was never your prison. It was your blueprint. Every scar they left on you, you turned it into structure. They gave you wounds, you gave yourself wisdom. They tried to write you off as destroyed, but you were busy drawing up something indestructible. You didn't just survive, you studied. You sat with the ache, dissected the betrayal, rewired the grief, and came out with blueprints etched in blood and brilliance. And now, you move different. You build different. You carry a silence that stings louder than their screams. Because you're no longer fighting back. You're designing forward. That's what scares them. Chosen ones don't avoid the fire. We take notes in it. And that's exactly what you did. While they were watching for your collapse, you were crafting your comeback in secret, quietly, strategically, intentionally. Now your presence doesn't just walk into a room, it shakes it, because you carry the kind of strength that only comes from breaking and rebuilding on your own terms. Let them whisper, let them wonder, because every piece of pain they threw at you has become part of the empire you're building. And now that they see it rising, they're realizing the blueprint they tried to destroy was never theirs to touch. You're not dangerous because you fought back. You're dangerous because you built forward. Number 6. Stop begging to belong. The silence wasn't rejection. It was your throne in disguise. Chosen one, they thought silence would shut you down. They thought being ignored, excluded, or left behind would break you into pieces. But you weren't abandoned. You were being positioned. That silence wasn't a punishment. It was a portal, a hidden chamber the universe carved just for you, not to isolate you, but to initiate you. Every unanswered message, every ghosted call, every event you weren't invited to, they weren't oversights, they were divine removals, because you were never meant to sit at plastic tables with people who chew your energy and spit out your name. You were meant to build the throne they'd never be allowed to sit near, and now they see it. Now the same people who once made you feel like an outsider are watching you become the standard. They used to laugh behind your back. Now they flinch when your name comes up. That's what silence does when it becomes sacred. It turns you into someone unforgettable. You weren't left behind. You were moved ahead, without the noise, without the distractions, without the betrayal pretending to be friendship. You don't belong where you were dismissed. And the fact that you stopped chasing access has made you untouchable. Let them keep the circle. You've got a kingdom to build. Number 7. Stop ignoring the signal. Your intuition sees what sweet talk will never show you. Chosen one, your intuition isn't just a gut feeling. It's the siren in the storm, the frequency they can't fake. You've always felt it, haven't you? That quiet tightening in your chest when someone smiles too wide. That internal tug when the room feels warm, but the energy is freezing. That's not paranoia, that's precision. You weren't gifted with insight to second-guess it. You were armed with discernment because you're a threat to deception itself. And every time you've tried to give someone the benefit of the doubt, you've paid for it in silence. So stop apologizing for knowing what they're hiding before they even speak. That's not arrogance, that's awareness. They try to sugarcoat their intentions, but your spirit knows the difference between honey and poison. Sweet talk doesn't fool a soul that's been through the fire. You don't need proof anymore. You are the proof. You've lived through too many betrayals not to recognize the scent of one before it even unfolds. You were never meant to blend in with blindness. You were designed to be the watchtower, the sensor, the firewall, and that's why they're running. Not because you attacked, but because you saw. Your knowing is your sword now. Use it, trust it, and never apologize for seeing what others deny. Number 8. Don't just escape the chains, burn the whole blueprint they tried to trap you in. Chosen one, let's make this clear. This was never just about breaking free. This was about making sure no one could ever be caged like that again. You didn't just slip out of the trap, you lit the entire map on fire. Every chain they built wasn't just forged in jealousy, it was designed in silence, shaped by fear, and polished with control. They thought you'd follow the script like everyone else, but you didn't just exit the stage. You burned the script mid-performance and rewrote the ending in your own voice. You didn't escape to be quiet. You escaped to awaken. And now that you've stepped into your raw power, they're realizing the system they used to control others doesn't work on you anymore. That's why they're nervous. That's why they're running. Because you didn't just walk away. You turned your back on the entire design. You unlearned their lies. You stopped dancing to manipulation. You stopped shrinking to fit rooms built for the insecure. Now they're stuck with a blueprint that no longer functions. You've become the error in their formula, the disruption in their bloodline, the firewall to generational nonsense. That's what scares them. You weren't just chosen to escape. You were chosen to end the pattern forever. Number 9. Cut the explaining. The more you clarify, the more they try to control. Chosen one, stop breaking yourself down into pieces just to make yourself easier to swallow for people who were never meant to sit at your table. Every time you over-explained your peace, your silence, your distance, you handed power to someone who only ever wanted access to manipulate, not understand. But now, that season is dead. They say you're distant now. No, you're just no longer available for distortion. You've realized that people don't misunderstand you by accident. They misunderstand you on purpose because your clarity threatens their control. And your silence? That's not you pulling away. That's you pulling the plug on their ability to feed off your energy. You didn't change to become cold. You changed because you outgrew the need to prove you were good. Now you let your presence speak. You let your boundaries talk. You let the results of your growth silence the noise. And the haters, they're choking on the absence of the version of you they could manipulate. They don't run because you yell. They run because they can't decode you anymore. Because now, when your spirit says leave, you don't argue. You exit. You're not mysterious. You're strategic. You're not avoiding them. You're evolving past them. Let them wonder. Let them spin stories. You've become too dangerous to be explained, too evolved to be managed, and too aligned to be controlled. Number 10. Don't match the chaos. Become the calm that makes the whole room rethink everything. They expected you to fight fire with fire. They were counting on a reaction, hoping to drag you into the same mess they were drowning in. But you chose silence. You chose strategy. And that's what shook them the most. Because when a chosen one stops explaining, stops defending, and simply stands still, the whole room starts to shift. You didn't match their chaos. You made it uncomfortable. Your presence didn't yell. It exposed. It became the stillness that echoed louder than their drama. See, when a room is built on lies, The quietest truth becomes a demolition crew. And that's what you are now. You don't chase, you don't clap back, you don't flinch. You observe, you discern, and you decide. They don't fear confrontation, they fear clarity, and you became the embodiment of it. You're not just calm, you are the calm that disarms. You are the pause that interrupts patterns, the breath that brings reckoning. While they spiral, you steady, and in that steadiness, you've become the storm they didn't see coming. So let them talk, let them twist narratives. Your silence already cracked the script. That room you walk into, it remembers your energy long after you leave. You don't need to match the chaos. You are the reason it can't breathe. Number 11. Drop the survival mentality. You're not getting through it, you're ruling over it. Chosen one, it's time to stop acting like you're still crawling through the fire. That version of you, the one surviving, barely breathing, second-guessing every move, is gone. You're not in survival mode anymore. You're in rain mode. You're not enduring the storm. You've become the storm. The moment you stopped shrinking and started observing, everything shifted. They don't whisper because they won. They whisper because you did. They don't avoid you because you're weak. They avoid you because your presence reminds them of everything they couldn't kill. You're not exhausted, you're evolved. You don't flinch anymore because you've faced worse in silence and came out shining like war-polished steel. You used to survive nights hoping someone would understand. Now your very existence makes the room uneasy, not because you're bitter, but because you're built from betrayal, forged in silence, crowned in shadows. Let them talk. Let them pretend they don't see you. That's how scared people act around power, and that's what you are now. Power in motion, calm, composed, calculated. So no, you're not getting through it. You already did. You walked through fire and made it your kingdom, and now, you're not just rising, you're ruling, and every single hater knows. They're not ready for the world you're about to shape. Number 12. Stop hiding your power. Let the silence speak. You're already the earthquake. Chosen one, they didn't need a warning siren to know you had arrived. Your stillness alone cracked their foundation. You walk into rooms without a word, and yet people start adjusting their masks. That's not coincidence. That's presence. That's the kind of energy that doesn't need to announce itself. It shifts the air before you even speak. You've spent years making others comfortable, dimming your brilliance so their insecurities wouldn't feel exposed. But let's get real. Shrinking doesn't protect you. It paralyzes your purpose. And the universe didn't carve your power out of fire and isolation just for you to water it down for people who couldn't even meet your gaze. You are the quake they prayed would never come. Not loud, just undeniable. And now they're feeling it. The shaking, the consequences, the karma, the mirror they can't look away from. Because while they mocked your silence, they forgot one thing. Still water doesn't mean peace. It means pressure. And now, chosen one, that pressure is exploding through your elevation. You don't need to defend your power. You are the power. Let your silence speak the warning. You've already become the aftershock they'll never recover from. Let them run. Let them whisper. The earthquake already hit. You were it. And if that shook something in your spirit, it's because you were never meant to move like everyone else. You were designed to disrupt, not to disappear. Your silence has already spoken louder than their loudest attacks ever could. So stop doubting what they feel when you enter the room, because that shift, that's you, that's power. If this message hit home, show the system you're activated. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop "I am the earthquake" in the comments to declare it. This isn't your warning, this is your arrival, and they'll never forget it.